I just want to talk today, as it's World Mental Health Day, or it was yesterday, actually, about an issue that I think is the most important issue in mental health today. And I really actually just don't think it's been talked about enough. And that is stigma. Stigma and misinformation, and the way in which these two things are linked and feed one another. I think it is just something we don't have enough conversations about. We don't talk about it, and it sits at the core of the problem that we have with mental health in this country and throughout the world. Another thing that I think is worth talking about, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine, is something that I believe to be quite unhelpful, which is the current narrative that I hear a lot anyway, that it's so much better than it used to be. Everyone's talking about mental health these days. And there's not an acknowledgement that it is still dire. Mental health stigma is endemic, it's systemic, to the point of invisibility within our culture, within our society, within our world. And we are simply not talking about it enough. So just to give you an example, this sort of, oh, everything's much better than it used to be. Okay, maybe it is, but it's not okay. We didn't, after what happened to George Floyd, turn around and say, oh, well, we don't have slavery anymore, so it's much better than it used to be. We were bloody outraged, as we should have been, and still are. And that, to me, doesn't appear to be happening within our culture. We are not having enough conversations around the stigma and the impact of mental health stigma. And it isn't just affecting those of us that experience mental health. It affects everybody throughout our culture. And it is so damn important. And I believe that there's a number of things that drive this that we really need to be having conversations about and change. And the first thing is this notion that, or a disbelief, or a lack of acknowledgement of the mind-body link. As we talk about it as if it's a thing. Oh, the mind-body link. It isn't a thing. It's basic and obvious that the mind and the body are linked. I mean, if I saw a man running towards me now with a knife, my heart would start to beat faster. We all know those things, and yet we still talk about it like, oh. And there are still large swathes of the medical community that don't believe in it. I mean, it's outrageous. It's the conversation about where they sort of split between the brain and the body, and they became sort of two separate things, and we treat it medically. We talk about mental health separate from physical health. We don't talk, and physical health, the whole body is lumped in together, and mental health is something separate. It is not separate. It's our body, it's our health. There was something that happened, it's a big conversation. It involves Descartes and medicine and the dawn, health, and it's a whole other conversation of which I'm not going to talk about now. But when we look into it, and it's not something we're talking about enough, there was a miscommunication that has come to this unhelpful belief that permeates our health systems, our culture, that the mind and the body are separate, that they're not interconnected. They are. Anyone with half a brain knows they are. And we need to be having these conversations. And the other is this crazy notion that those people who have a mental health problem are in some way weaker or to blame for their mental health issues. And again, we see this in our parlance, in our conversations I see it on a daily basis, this general assumption. One of the most common things I see with my clients is in an admittance, a quiet admittance, not with everybody, but with a significant proportion of people that will tell me, oh, and until this happened to me, I thought that people that had mental health issues are weak, that it was their fault. We're not talking about that enough. but we see it in people's general conversation, in their assumptions. And as a result of that, not as a result of the mental health issue, but of the stigma, there are today, Mental Health Week, Mental Health Day 2023, there will be thousands upon thousands, probably millions of people suffering silently. There will be doctors and nurses and train drivers and mothers and dads and all manner of people who are experiencing anxiety and depression and other things, who are unwell. And as a result, they will not be making as good decisions. They will not be doing the things that they could be doing, and they will be suffering, but they won't go to the doctor. And they won't sometimes even admit to themselves that there's a problem, because to admit that means you're weak, and I'm not weak, so I don't have that. So they suffer. So there will be dads today who will have gone to work and they won't have made as good decisions. They will have had a bad day. They might have been angry with people. They may not have been able to get things done. They will have really, really struggled. And they'll get home and they'll be mean to their kids. Why? Because they're in pain. And then the kid is going to go to bed and they're going to blame themselves and wonder what's wrong with dad. And just in case you're wondering, yeah, those experiences are going to put that kid at greater risk of developing a mental health issue. But if there was no stigma, what is a relatively simple problem to fix, the person, the dad, could just go to the doctor, get some help, get fixed, and not have that problem. And this is happening endemically, culturally, across our country, across our world. Enough already. We just don't damn well need it. It's daft. It is daft to think that the most complex organ in our entire body, the one that runs everything, is not going to go wrong. Of course it is. Bodies get unwell. Of course they do. That's part of being alive. Sickness is a part of life, and we accept that for every other part of our bodies other than the most important and complex. That's daft. And we're all suffering as a result of that, not of mental health, because we can't change that. You know, yes, we can improve it. Yes, we can learn. But until we accept that there's no shame in it, that it's a normal part of life, enough. We need a paradigm shift. So I am sorry. I wish I could be more positive today, but I think it's unhelpful to keep saying that it's okay and it's so much better than it was. It's not helpful. What is helpful is to admit how bad it is and how good it could be relatively easily. How do we do that? Better education, better understanding, more talking, and more bloody funding. Right, enough ranting. Just needed to say those things. Let's have a conversation. I'll leave it there. Thanks.